Hello, welcome to In Bed with Books, the podcast where we talk about smutty fantasy, classics, and more. My name is Melissa.
And I'm Bethany. If you'd like to find more of us, you can find us on our website, inbedwithbookspod.com, YouTube for video versions of the podcast, or wherever you pod on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
If you want to see us outside of the podcast, then head over to Instagram and follow us at In Bed with Books Pod.
Thanks for being here. Let's jump right in. Today is very warm. I came home and I put shorts on and a tank top and I was like, no.
I feel like I've sweat off enough liquid to create a whole second person.
Yeah.
And that's just since I showered 2 hours ago. So
Yeah.
Doing great.
And then so we have our AC unit that blows into the main room, and then this is the little closet, and it doesn't get any of that air. So I'm just blinds down. And I'm
yes. If you can hear my fan at any point, it's because I had to turn it up because same.
We have to survive.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So what has been your obsession this last week, Melissa?
So at the time of filming this, just for clarification,
yes,
a week ago today, Volume 2 of Stranger Things came out.
Yes.
And so Eddie Munson has been my obsession.
Yes.
I think one of my favorite parts of it is that as a singular character, he kind of represents the Satanic Panic in the late 80s. There's just something really fun about that.
Yeah.
And then one thing that I've always liked about the Duffer Brothers work is how they take these really harsh stereotypes. One of horror movie stereotypes, but two also of the characters and the kind of stereotypes that the characters are, and they kind of turn them on their head. And so when we see Eddie first, he's kind of dickish, and at first you're kind of hesitant about liking him, but later we find out how big of a heart he actually has. And I love that because he's his opening line where they're reading where he's reading that I can't remember, some newspaper article about D&D and about how the same argument that gets made nowadays about video games and violent TV and everything. And so you kind of expect him to be a dick, and he's not. He's a really nice person. He sacrifices himself for everybody. But also his hair.
Do you have a hair kink now?
I might have a hair kink for a very specific wig.
Yeah.
Which was apparently on set. It was called the Beast.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I don't know how anyone doesn't have a kink for a wig that was called the Beast.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I also just really like this season because I know recently we did have a conversation about Stranger Things.
Yeah.
About this season specifically. I loved how they really went with some classic deaths. You had the blonde, you had the black kid, you had the nerd, some really typical figures to die at a horror movie. And also just the way that they really use that Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
So good. So fun. So yeah, I think it was a good season. And he sacrificed himself.
I know.
And he had the most metal concert in history. So
yeah, and
how are you not supposed to love him?
He was just happy.
Yes.
He was just jolly,
Yeah.
Yeah. Very sweet.
He deserved better. And I'm gonna keep saying it.
There's one death that I kind of secretly loved, which was when what's the guy's name? The jock guy? Jason. So there was a point in that episode where he's like literally chasing a
Like
child.
a child. Yes.
And to say nothing of like the racial implications, all of
Yes.
that, but also like this is a child. And then so I was just like, holy shit, this is getting like weird.
I genuinely thought he was gonna kill somebody in this episode.
Yeah.
In that episode, yeah.
And then he's in this like fist fight with Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just love that like the upside down like cracks open and he just like melts, and it's just like this thing that passes by.
Yes, yeah.
His death is just like a whoop. And I love that. I love that he didn't get like that was his moment, was like gone.
Yes.
Because that's what
I think my only problem with it is that he didn't learn how wrong he was before he died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I loved his actual death. I just wish that we'd had like something beforehand that would have proved to him how fucked up he was being. But okay, so like we talk about Eddie and Jason kind of being against each other, and we get that from the very first scene where they're introduced together, because he yells across the cafeteria about throwing balls and laundry baskets. But where Eddie had this very like heroic arc, Jason had this like devolution of character that was so beautiful. I love that shit. I like to see characters like just lose their entire sense of humanity. There's the shot when he's driving because they've been tipped off about the kids being at the Krill house, and it's just like a side shot of him, but you can see how like bloodshot his eyes are because he's just been up for days on his little witch hunt.
He's just like obsessed.
Disgusting, and I love it. Yes. Yeah. Excellent performance, honestly.
Yeah.
Because who doesn't love like a really well performed villain?
Well, and a good villain that's like both based off of like real things.
Yeah.
But just like there's so much like detail and time dedicated to like watching that happen, like you said, like that devolution is like really nice. It's like when you take the time to really like give it
Yes
it's not just this like very one note pulled together villain. Like villains, good, well written, good, like well
performed
performed, exactly. Villains are so satisfying. They make the good that much more like exciting and pure.
I remember in the scene where we first meet him officially, there's it's when he's giving that speech at the pep rally, and there's this part where he talks about when they were almost losing the previous game and how they have to pull together for the people that died in the mall fire, which is like the cover story for season 3, the end of season 3. And so I think it was like 3 of us in the house who were watching it, and all of us were like, this is fucking sketch. Like this is fucked up.
This is
because he's
real.
Also like he's giving it like he's speaking at the pulpit.
It felt like a nightmare.
Like
you're like, this isn't real.
And this might be the fact that like we're all kind of like we're all kind of like, you and I and like the people in my house are kind of like the freaks that he would not have liked, and so we are inherently skeptical of that kind of behavior. But then we kind of see the callback to it, like any hesitance or reservations you had watching that first scene are validated in the scene where he goes to the town hall and he takes it over. Like the cops can't get it back. Not that they necessarily try, they're really shitty cops, but they can't take it back from him. They try to say like anyone who's out past curfew, like you'll be arrested, nobody gives a shit. And you can see that later when everybody is also out at night doing this witch hunt. It was so satisfying how fucked up it was. And it was like oddly validating because you're like, it wasn't in my head. He is bad. Like he is a bad melon. Not good.
Well, we talk a lot more about Stranger Things on YouTube, so you should check that out because we love it, and we've been pretty obsessed with it for a couple of years now. As most of the world should be.
To watch. Yes, they should be. the acting on that show. I think that was our biggest takeaway from our conversation, is just the performances this season were out of this world.
Yeah, it's true. And that's really hard to get with kids, but they did such a good job.
They did. Yeah. 2 thumbs up.
This is real music.
Yes. Okay. Because we'll keep going. So
yes.
All right,
okay.
Bethany, what are we talking about today?
I love that you always ask me. Like, I'm the one that has the book.
Usher us into it.
Yeah, usher us. We are talking about The Queen of Nothing, the third and final in the trilogy, The Folk of the Air by Holly Black. And this was my favorite one.
Oh, yeah.
It was so good.
Yes.
So good. I love that we started out in the human world. And she's just fucking badass, just like making ends meet and like trying to like do all of these like tasks for all of like the fae in the area. And she comes across Grima Mog.
Yeah.
I've never said that name out loud. I've just read it. So I'm like, what does it sound like?
Yes.
Who I'm in love with.
New daddy. Like
new mama daddy.
Yes.
New Maddie.
Yes.
She's so good.
I kind of, to like touch on your first point, which is that like she's making ends meet. I love that because they could have easily, or I guess like Holly Black could have easily done this whole story where she can't get by because she was raised in privilege and like because she grew up in this big aristocratic household, she doesn't know how, but like it's fucking Jude Duarte. She knows how to pull something out of her ass and get shit done, and she does it.
And I love the way her mind works. Like she's like when she's like talking to Grima Mog and she's like negotiating, she's like, I should have given her a higher price. Like she's like learning from like these little mistakes, these like little like missteps. Missteps. Like she's like, which I just love that because that's like survival mode, you know, and she's just always in survival mode.
Oh God, yeah.
And that's kind of just her personality, actually. I don't think it's really like she does it because she wants to do it, not because she has to do it. She does it because she has to do it because that's what she wants.
Yes, like because she has ambitions.
Yeah.
And she knows that she has to in order to fulfill those ambitions.
Yeah.
I think this time around we definitely got more from Taryn, and I think in a more like fulfilling way we saw the ways that they're different, because previously Taryn has really just been kind of pretty quiet, like the good housewife, but she kind of came into her own, and I think like that was the huge difference, because Jude is really never satisfied with what she has, and I think that's kind of an unsaid thing about the end of this book. What does she do next? Because she's always been moving. But that's why Jude and Taryn's ideas of survival are extremely different. So
well, that's what I was really curious about, is how you felt about Taryn in this book, because that she's always been one you don't like.
I'm still on the fence about her, but
it didn't really resolve as much as I thought it was going to. And I think maybe that's part of like, we really picked it up, her like betrayal, you know, a lot. And we kind of like hung on that. And so I think we were let down a little bit because it didn't like fulfill like the resolution we were looking for. Cause maybe we just like really just like, I don't know. I
feel like it really got swept under the fact that she killed Locke and was pregnant, and then like everything kind of hit the fan after that, and so there wasn't really a chance for them to like sit down and talk that out, because it wasn't just that like the Locke betrayal was huge, but her using them to like Taryn using them to help Matic was completely different. Like that is a whole other level of betrayal. And so I do think like let's imagine for a second that like we get to see them after this. I think a lot of that, especially because there's nothing bad happening now, like the conflict has been resolved, all they have is to talk about the problem now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think which Jude has always like, there was like kind of this moment, I can't exactly remember what moment, the Taryn, like Jude kind of accepted something from her. She accepted like it was like that scene where she like accepted that she was going to go in and like help her.
mhm,
And it was like the way that she talks to other players in the game, like Maddock and stuff. She's always trying to think about like what they're thinking, what they're wanting from her. Is this an even exchange? Am I going to get what I want out of this?
mhm.
It didn't feel like she was trying to get anything out of this, other than the fact that she wanted to go back to Fairy
Yeah, I
and see
think that's the
Cardan.
thing though.
Yeah,
Like,
I think she really did. But
mhm,
but I felt this sense of like, it really felt, I feel with Jude and Taryn like this sense of sisterhood
mhm.
that is like always underlining. Like you get in fights with your sisters, you hate your sisters, but then at the end of the day they're still your sister, and you
Yeah,
just kind of like, they will always be your sister, and so you can't like
yeah,
um because who was the last person Taryn had in that moment? Jude.
mhm,
And so Jude always knows that Jude will always be there, and
yeah.
Taryn will always be there, and so there's kind of this sense of like sisterhood no matter how like shitty she was. So yeah,
I think there's
but I do feel like
also,
not a lot of that old conflict was really brought up and like
yeah,
hashed through.
like going off of that as well is I feel like Taryn also has that sense of like I can say those things, you can't. I think both of them do actually with each other because like they're twins, so we get that a little bit more. But like, I can say that shit about her, and I can say that shit about my dad, but you cannot. And so like,
Right.
finding out the level of threat that Law could become to her,
Mhm.
I feel like was probably also a driving force in that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, yeah. So like,
Yeah.
I'm definitely not a hater of Taryn anymore, but I still have my hesitance about her.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but Grima Mog, from
I
their very
love,
first meeting, I was like,
she's
let's see
met her
what I wrote.
match. She's met her
Yes,
match.
yes.
Yeah.
Um, oh god, I can't even read what I wrote because I was like, I was reading and just scribbling. Okay, hold on. Here we go. I was very excited about the fact that like she was a red cap and she was a she. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
and so I said, take Jude under. She better take Jude under her wing and destroy all the men, which I feel
Yes.
like she did.
Yes.
Um, I was. I don't think I explicitly realized it, but then when she shows up later to help save her and everything, there is kind of this sense of like they're showing her that being a red cap doesn't inherently mean that you need to be pursuing the crown. Like I I'm not quite as into Matic after book 3. After
Mhm.
like the first 2 books, I feel like there was still some room for, or I guess like they're part of book 2. So all of book 1 and part of book 2, there was still some room for Matic to like amend things.
Yeah.
But pretty immediately you see that that's not the case anymore. Um and I there's a couple of spots. So like when he stabs her,
Uh-huh.
when they're having that like duel outside of the encampment, and she mentions that he has this almost like this look of surprise on his face. Um and so I feel like you still can't ignore the fact that his behavior isn't always like a conscious thing. Like he it's in his nature.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that it has to be the way that it is, because we see with Grima Mog, like, and
Mhm.
she's a fucking cannibal.
Yeah.
So this isn't like she's a nice red cap. She's arguably more fucked up than
Yeah.
Maddock is.
But
But because
Maddock is
her
power hungry.
exactly because their goals are inherently different,
Yeah.
it's a totally different situation.
Yeah.
If he's getting to the point where he's stabbing the person that he sees as his daughter and surprising himself, then like it's different.
Yeah.
So
I loved the fact that she like went in as Taryn, and like that whole thing was so fun.
yes.
Because first of all, I knew for a fact Cardan would know exactly who she was.
Oh yeah.
Like I was just like, okay, back into his arms. And then and then the coup thing, or not the coup, but like just like taking Jude happened. And then Maddock and Ariana like thought it was Taryn. And I was just like,
But
how long is that going to last?
Yes. Yes.
Because you think Maddock will find out first because of like their whole mind. Like they're like, she's always talking about like, I'm going to become Maddock, right? But I love that Oriana finds out first. And then that I forget, but it did tell you when he found out.
So
do you remember?
The day after, okay, so like there's the night that Oriana confronts her because she figures it out, which again I also love, because
Yes,
as tense as their relationship was, for all intents and purposes, Ariana was her mother. And then there's the day after that, and the day after that in like the afternoon, he had asked Oriana to ask Taryn, quote unquote Taryn, to bring tea to their like war tent. And what tipped him
right.
off
Was that she looked at the map too long. That's what it was. Yep. Yeah. Not the conversation around the fire.
Nope.
Which is crazy to me because I'm like, Maddock is better than this. And that's like his weak. He was so weak.
The weakness is that he wants his daughters to love him.
Yeah.
He desperately wants their love.
Yeah.
He just has a pretty warped idea in some senses of what that looks like.
And he knows he can get that from Taryn much easier.
Or at least like a fake version of it.
Yeah, at least, yeah. Yeah, for sure. That was really fun. Also, when you find Ghost.
Okay. I love the Ghost. I said that in book 1.
Love the Ghost.
And I said that in part 2. And the little lines when they're like, and you could tell who the ghost was because they get like those masks. You could tell who the ghost was because he looked back at Taryn.
Oh, I know. I'm so excited about that.
I want them to make beautiful children.
I ship it.
I ship it so hard.
Ship it like, so fucking hard.
There's the first time we have like an inkling of that happening. I think it was at either the banquet or like I think like the after, like not the coronation, but the banquet after they won. And she's talking about how somebody's saying something, or like, and Taryn's telling a story, and the ghost is just looking at her.
Yep. I was like, yes, absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
Also, like the killer move when one tells them, like brings them down to the dungeon, and she's like, here's the ghost. And he starts climbing and then just like nonchalantly gives his full name and tells him to stop. Like, boss ass move. She wanted them to see, and she's like, I'm also giving you his name because fuck you.
Yeah, so she essentially freed him. Because, and there's that like such a sense of relief from him. He just like aside from it, because he knew he could trust Taryn. And he probably saw what she went through.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Stuff, so
because he even talked about like regretting working with Locke, even though he did it out of guilt and everything. Okay, you want to know the part that really got me tearing up though? Was actually when her and Nikasia became
like made up
friends.
Yes,
when like it was a really tentative making up. Because you wouldn't have realized that it was until she showed up with the armies.
Right.
Like them having that little moment, that moment of like amend between each other, motivated her enough to be like, fuck you, I'm gonna rule this army without my mom here. I'm in charge. So
yeah.
It was a really awesome moment. So much of this book was just like ladies helping ladies,
Yes, yes.
which was really fun.
And ladies helping men. Like the
Yes, men who didn't think they could be helped.
yeah.
Yeah. The ghost, the roach,
Yeah.
Cardan.
Yes, Roach. Oh my gosh, that's what I want to talk about too. I really liked that that
I
foil.
was so scared. Yes.
Oh, that was so sweet. Like, because she didn't say like I love you back, and then just like that beautiful moment that the Roach and the bomb have together when they don't
Mhm.
know that the ghost and Jude is there, and he's just like, I'm dying, and then it was just like
And
this.
she's like, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
No, you're not.
And they like sneak out, and it was just like, and
And you
Jude
know that they had really
realized,
great sex
yeah,
afterwards. Yeah.
yeah, everything's
Um,
followed by really great sex.
also,
Reaffirmation of love.
yes, later in the book, when we see the roach and the bomb together, they're like, and Jude says something along the lines of how he suddenly looks happier, or he looks like he has like
Yes,
a
yes.
smile. And I'm like, yeah, because he's getting laid. That's the glow everyone's talking about.
Well, it was, I remember rereading it because I loved it. She said that he had this like glow in his eye and then like a smile that like stayed in the like corner of his mouth. And she said, I hated it. I hated looking at it because not for him, but like for her.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
that, she gets that. They get that. And she doesn't. I love.
It goes back to also like, I think it was when they were about to have sex, but he says something along the lines of like, how much is it going to take for both of us to take down our armor?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's trying to open up a little bit, and she kind of is, but she's still taking it as a joke, which is, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
normal response to vulnerability you're not ready for. But very like, yeah, very parallel with like the roach waking up and just basically vomiting out the
Yeah.
confession. Yeah.
Yeah.
A very like blatant version of that, which is, I don't know, I like it sometimes. I like when we don't have to read between the lines, especially like in a book like this where we often have to.
Yes.
Because it's fairy.
Yeah.
And so if you're not, then you're not seeing like the tricks that are happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was so good.
Yeah.
Okay. Next,
yes.
Do you have something to say? Because I have like a topic.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So something else I want to talk about is the girl gang, which there's a lot of girl gangs, but the girl gang, which is, and Oak, which is like Vivi, I don't know.
Vivi.
Heather. Yeah, Vivi. Heather. Grandma Mock comes in at one point, and Oak. And their presence is much more like united in this book. And they're just like there to like they have like Jude's back, even though like Jude from the very beginning is very much like the alone ranger. Like she's just very much on her own path. She doesn't ask for anything, she just does everything herself. There is no backup, right? She does like kind of, her sisters are kind of there, but she doesn't want to depend on them. And these are like serious moments where she's been bailed out several times, and it's like really comforting to know that they're actually there for her, and that's how much they care about her.
Yes, I think that also is a big reason why the conflict with Taryn never gets explicitly stated, because she ends up showing more through her actions that she's got her back, which I like. But speaking of Grima Mog, I'm gonna keep coming back to her because
absolutely, I fucking love support her.
It. In the same vein, when like Cardan turns into the snake when he gets cursed, and Taryn's all upset and everything, Grima Mog, like that's the moment when you see the difference between her and Matic. Like it's not like the power, the ambition for power isn't a red cap thing. It's the violence that they use to act out their wants and their needs.
Yeah.
Because her first thought is to get Jude out of the room and to get her into a secure location, because she knows immediately that people who want power are going to come after her. And so I just love I love that moment, because even when she goes with them to help save Jude from the encampment, all of everything, I guess, leading up to the moment where she saves her from the masses, essentially, is still Grima kind of working for her. Like it could be read still as Grima working towards her own ends, because that's just how, from the previous two books, we've learned that fairy people can sometimes act. And even like you were saying about Jude, how she'll do favors, but she does them with her own needs in mind. That's something she learned in fairy. So I think Grima Mog is one of the first powerful players that we meet who is also kind of selfless.
Yeah.
Like she just wants a good leader to send her out, of the sword of the crown kind of thing, you know?
And I feel like she wouldn't have known that until she had been one-on-one combat with her at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And then later when when Jude is like
bleeding,
and then she's like, whatever, all hail queen. Yeah. And I just love that. I was just like, oh good, like someone, Grima Mog very much was this voice of reason. A lot of a fae who was living in the human world, who has a lot of history with the politics of the fae, who has a lot of power and influence, while also being kind of a wild card. She felt very much like a wild card, and then also just supported Jude, and that was really fun.
And she did it before she found out she was queen. She did it just because she fucking wants.
She wants to see where that's going. Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, you know, I could use my sword a little bit. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she also saves the knife, the dagger that Jude loses, which is another kind of tender moment from her. But on the flip side, how do you feel about Maddox's punishment?
Oh yeah, so he gets banished to the human world. What else? Is that it?
He can never return.
He can never return. I mean, I feel like in terms of what Jude needs, is that it solves a problem, which is he can't fuck with them anymore. But he's still alive and he's there, I guess, so that Oak can have a father, and Oriana can have a Maddox. What do you think?
I at first didn't like it.
You're the queen of retribution, so
yes,
we need.
Because it did feel kind of like a cop out at first. Because I was kind of like, if you're gonna punish him, then fucking punish him. Don't half-ass it, you know? Whole ass one thing. But then later, I think it was in maybe the epilogue, even. She was talking with Vivi and maybe Oak. And and Taryn. So yeah, she was talking to the siblings. And she said something to Vivi about having to teach him about human things. And then it occurred to me that she's quite literally creating a boundary with her father that will allow them to have a relationship.
Right.
So it's not so much a punishment as it
is a putting one in one's place.
Yeah,
putting him in his place.
The thing with Matic is that I think the best kind of comparison to a human father would be a father with addiction, because he gets surprised when he is too violent with the kids. And so it's not a behavior that he clearly likes.
Yeah.
And the thing with like with a relationship, or like with trying to have a relationship with somebody like that, is that you have to lay down boundaries. And what she's done is laid down a boundary that he physically cannot break.
Yeah.
And so I like that.
Yeah.
And at least for the time being, because she mentions at some point that if she stays in Fairy, in Elfheim, then she won't age. But if she goes out, then she'll age to however long it's actually been. So they really only have a few years left together, assuming that she never raises the ban on him. But like for those years, they'll have a good relationship.
Jude
Yeah,
will age
because
if
I
she
don't think
goes
she's
outside.
gonna leave. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
not with what she has. So
Yeah. She's got a Cardan now.
yeah, and she's queen. Like she's not gonna give
Yeah.
that up. So yeah. So I mean, like at first no, but after I thought about it, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Because with Jude, she really thinks things through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A lot of daddy issues in this book.
Oh yeah. Because I think she had to deal with it more. Yeah. But she had to deal with it more blatantly than she had previously. In the past, she's just kind of been like, well, Matic is kind of hard, and we had some rough times. But in this time, she was like, oh god, I'm turning into Matic. This is terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's that line she says, I can either turn into Maddock or break. Like she was like working through that,
Yeah. And I think like that's a big lesson. Like when we talk about like having daddy or mommy issues, is that like it can be hard when you have parts of yourself that remind you of them, but you didn't just get bad things from them.
Yeah.
Because in some of those moments where she's stressing about that, she also needed to be acting like that. She needed that kind of behavior.
Yeah.
To survive. So
yeah.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah. We didn't talk a lot about Cardan, but he was kind of just a side character, really.
He didn't have a lot of like screen time. I mean, I loved some of the stuff that he said and did, because this book he was definitely more affirmatively, I love you, and you're beautiful, and I knew it was you from the second you came in, and I'm gonna go into the middle of enemy territory to save your life. Like he was a dreamboat, this book.
Yeah he was.
Yeah, I mean there's like really no other way to put it. He was just super into her, and it felt supernatural because now we've known him for 3 books. It wasn't like they met 2 weeks ago and he's asking her to marry him. Like it was really fulfilling of a story for them, their love.
I feel like now actually talking about the book, I feel like we've actually hit all of the groups and the main characters. Like it was actually like a pretty simple but significant book. Like I feel like I
feel so like the books themselves are like on, I don't want to say the shorter side, but definitely in terms of like the length of YA or fantasy books, it's kind of like
they're
the
pretty
lower
short.
end of average.
Yeah, they're like this one's 308, so
yeah. But I mean like that's still probably like midway.
Yeah.
I feel like we kind of get skewed because we've read like nearly 1,000-page books.
Yeah.
Which is not the norm.
No.
But it follows just like one succinct plot line too. Is like at the very beginning, there's the assassination of the king and multiple children. So you've got like the rush of power grab. And then in the middle is like Cardan trying to secure his rule in anticipation of eventually Oak ruling. And then the end is just breaking the crown. Like it's just kind of redefining what that's going to look like. Like there's a very clear story. There's not some kind of like conspiracy that's going on necessarily. Like there's little ones, but they aren't Like
Yeah.
Jude is smart, she figures them out. It's not like in Crescent City where it's actually kind of like angels of death sucking the life force out of everybody.
It's like Inception, and you're like, oh, there's like planets upon planets, and
Yes, and
who
like
are
there's
we,
not
and
like
who are they, and how do we? There's different realms,
how did
and
we
it's
get
like,
here?
yeah,
Like
exactly,
very existential kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas this is just like it's a very simple kind of like Macbeth plot.
Yes, yes, and that's it's so nice to read.
Yes, yes.
This one was really easy to read. I really enjoyed this one a lot.
Same, yeah. I did kind of miss the like Jude style. I've been planning this all along moment.
Yeah.
But I think she had more that she had to accomplish emotionally than like trickstery.
Yeah.
So I was still like I still love where she went in this book.
Instead, she was like just having to think on her feet.
Yeah.
And seeing what she does like under pressure.
Yeah, I did kind of anticipate she would have to cut off his head with the sword. Because they spent a little too long in the very beginning explaining what the sword's purpose was.
Yeah.
And then when they said the prophecy again, I was like, she's gonna kill him with the sword.
Yeah.
And then she's stressing him like you just gotta kill him with the sword.
But I also like that she had plotted a little bit.
Yeah.
Like she had grabbed
Maddox's
hair and
Gerald.
Yeah. From the Court of Teeth, and like put them on the thing.
Yeah.
And so she had like a backup, I feel like. But she wanted Cardan back, or
it was almost like bigger for her to reject the plotting that she's done, and choose love instead.
Yeah. And that was the ultimate rejecting Maddox.
Yep.
Yes.
So good.
So good. So good. I love Jude. Love Jude.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know. I'm just thinking about them having sex. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
It was definitely more of like a closed door sex scene, which we don't read a lot on here, but they still had the before, vague, during, and after. So I am satisfied.
Yes.
I just need some after cuddling and I'm fine. So.
Well, and like there's enough dynamic, like there's enough charge of what they're bringing to like imagine what happened in between the lines. Because when you have two like really like bland characters and bland like context, then you're just kind of like that's when it lays flat. But there's so much like in that scene in itself, and in their personalities and stuff.
Because she like, well, I was gonna say like, because she starts like, she gives a very specific positioning.
Yes.
Like we know what position they start in and we know what position they end in, and we can fill in the blanks.
Yes.
It's like a Mad Libs.
Yeah. Mad Libs of what happens in YA sex scenes.
Yeah, we should do that. That'd be really fucking funny.
Do that. So yeah, closing thoughts.
How long has it already been?
Well, we talked about Stranger Things a lot, but like I said, I feel like this book was very straightforward, unless there's anything. It was. Yeah.
Let me think. I feel like there were I highlighted a couple of things.
Yeah.
I realized what better way to be able to reference my notes than to actually highlight the parts. So like I
highlight
think I
the
should
parts
talk about on the podcast. Okay. Oh, okay. Another famous or like favorite Dream of Mog moment. So in the same scene that I had mentioned earlier, where she takes Jude out of like the fray and make sure that she's somewhere safe, Jude is kind of having a panic attack, which is fair. The love of her life just got turned into a giant serpent, and he's growing and disappearing. And Jude has this line where she's like, it's fine, I'll be fine, I just need to sit for a minute. And Grima Mog's only response is, I know you are. She has like such confidence in Jude, and that's what she needed. Like that is the support system that she needed to be able to do what she's doing. And I loved that moment between them. It was really small but really satisfying.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then just another, like, I love the way that Holly Black writes this world kind of moment
Mhm.
when she's first approaching the cave that the ghost is in. She talks about how when she's first getting into it, like when she sees it from the outside, it looks like a mouth smiling, like the shape of the cave looks like it's smiling. And then a couple paragraphs later, she's inside of it, and like the stalagmites and the stalactites, she describes them like teeth.
Yeah.
And so I just love those little moments where it's like that imagery is sticking together, and it's like, is this cave a mouth? I love the image that she's
Yes.
created. She's like the excellent writing because it's
She
also
is
kind of
one of the
creepy.
best. Yeah.
Yes, yes, it's kind of creepy, but it also makes sense because it's fairy.
Yeah. I agree. I think she writes the way that she writes like really gets the point across that it's this creepy world, it's this enchanted world. I also really like the way she does dialogue.
Yeah.
Like it's not like snarky for snark's sake. That's just who Jude is. Like
Hmm.
what she's thinking and everything. Like she really puts a lot of thought into like the dialogue as well.
Yeah.
One specific scene, I think they were all like all of the Vivi and all of them were together and they were like they're like trying to figure out like what happened with like the ghosts and stuff.
Hmm.
And then Vivi says, "It's ridiculous the way everyone acts like killing a king is going to make someone better at being one. Imagine if in the mortal world, a lawyer passed the bar by killing another lawyer." Like I just like that's the fucking like
Yes.
crux. And she's just talking like she doesn't care about fairy, but she's just like, what the hell?
Yep. And also, like, if we want to talk about Vivi for a second,
Hmm.
ever since the whole situation with Heather, um, in book two, I think you can see kind of some of her more fairy-like behavior as much as she tries to reject it. And she, at the very end, when she's trying to take a bunch of stuff from fairy back to the human world, like it's
Yeah.
clear that she's kind of her daddy issues have healed a little bit at the same time that Jude's
Mm,
have, for the very
yeah.
same reason, because that's the whole reason she was rejecting their life there the entire time. Um, so I like that we get that from her as well,
Hmm.
because she also can't move on and like heal and help with Heather
Hmm.
around what happened if she's kind of demonizing that part of her, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
She has to see it more as like a neutral part.
Yeah.
It is like she is, it's not bad just because she got it
It's
from Matic.
indifferent. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good
Okay.
point. Yeah.
I think that's everything. My other note was just that I was basically fangirl screaming at the Roach's declaration of love.
Yes.
But we talked about that. Like, it was just so good. So beautiful.
One quick thing also that I underlined was how Cardan, like we kind of talked about them, like their armor coming down a little bit, especially
Mhm.
his in this instance. Like
Yeah.
he really missed her. And there's
Yeah.
this part where she realizes that his tail shows emotion more than he does. And I just fucking
Yeah.
melted. I was like, it was like Cardan emerges, his gaze going to neither me nor the guard, but to Hollow Hall itself. His tail lashes the air behind him, showing all the emotion that's not on his face. And then there's a moment when they're embracing, and she notices his tail kind of moving a lot. Or like when he was like something emotional was happening and his like tail moved, and then it like came up on her calf.
When they were having sex, yes. When they were having sex, his tail wrapped around her leg. And you know, we've been, I wouldn't say tail kink on this podcast. We are
Right.
definitely pro pro tail, pro choice about tails, if you
Yes.
will.
Yes.
Um, after the moment when his tail wrapped around her leg, I was like, I don't know, I think I might just be pro tail.
Yeah. I think the tail is
It's worn on
it's
me.
it is it's a new kink. No, it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah,
You know, sometimes we just discover them late in life.
yeah, we're just like, I could do with a tail.
Yeah.
I could do with a tail wrapping around my leg. when the moment is
I
right.
I wouldn't be objected to it.
Nope.
It would have to be attached to a human,
Yes.
but I wouldn't be opposed. Just to clarify.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Pro tail here.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that was a good book.
That was fun. Yeah, that was a good one. It was a good conclusion to the story.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think next week we're talking about fantasy creatures.
Yes. Yes.
And then I think our next book after that is going to be Glint by Raven
I don't
Kennedy.
know what's after the next one. I am only 1 week. My brain is only 1 week ahead.
Well, I've been doing the images for it, so I've had had to know,
yeah,
because we were doing Gleam, but that's actually the third one, Glint, and I'm really excited to get in that one. This is when it's supposed to get good. So in terms of reading,
I need a new love interest in those books. So
yeah. We
Yeah.
need more than Midas.
Yes, yeah. I need some more options here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Until next week. Happy reading.
Happy reading.
Bye.
Bye.